goldrefinery.com. They're downtown Birmingham. We've been talking a lot about diversification lately when we bring up AGR, and it's just smart. I know we all kind of know this. It's like we also all know we should eat right, and we forget, and we know what's good for us, but we forget. Start considering it and go by the shop. This is just my invitation, sort of a soft invitation to get to know Steve, see what the shop's all about, talk to him about how gold works. I think you'll get inspired. You don't have to go out and spend thousands of dollars, but if you just do a little at a time, you'd be surprised how, in a very tangible way, you will have stored wealth in something that always has value no matter what's over the horizon. We don't know where things are going in the next 2 or 3 years. What we do know is in times of crisis or great inflation, which is largely both of which are caused by the government itself, gold's still gold, and it's been that way since biblical days. Never goes out of style. Same thing with some of the other metals that percentage-wise get hot from time to time. Silver's been on an amazing run. They do all that there. They buy from you, sell to you, trade with you. I mean, in other words, you can bring in some old, what we call scrap, old pieces you don't wear anymore, old rings and necklaces, and trade that for equal value in another shape of gold and maybe a stamped and weighed coin or something like that. Let Steve talk to you about how that works. It's a safe location. It's a central location in the middle of Homewood. It's AlabamaGoldRefinery.com, AGR, AlabamaGoldRefinery.com. Okay, I'll tell you what, I got so many things to get into. Let me start with the weather because it's suddenly, it's a thing this afternoon. I was looking at the radar. There's some really, pull this thing back up. There's some really strong showers out there starting to pop up. The forecasters always knew. We've got sort of 2 days where this is very much a possibility. So right now, it's more, the heaviest part of this stuff is back to the north and west, but our listeners in Jasper up on Smith, y'all can probably hear the thunder already. Big, heavy line of storms with kind of a bow shape to it. Now, we don't expect severe weather today, but these are super heavy and good old summertime storms, a lot of lightning involved, and all this stuff that's going to start drifting generally toward the city of Birmingham. Now, a lot of times late in the day, these things, after the heat starts to settle, they sort of move along and rain themselves out. So the further away from it you are at this hour, the stronger the chance that you won't have to deal with as much heavy rain or any flooding or anything of that sort. But even on my future radar, the color indicators have changed a little bit already, where it looks like some of it may just slip to the north of where I live. And it depends on where you are. So it's coming through, and the timeline looks like somewhere around 3:30 or 4. Rain, pretty significant rain for a lot of people in the audience. I would say heads up Gadsden, Coleman, Pell City, areas to the north and sort of east of Birmingham. And then, of course, you've got folks back down around in our southernmost counties around Tuscaloosa. You're getting some thunderstorms right now. And then that stuff's going to drift south, too, from Tuscaloosa towards, say, Clanton. So that's our sort of picture of where it's going. That's your direction. Good old summer afternoon storms. I think tomorrow is an even greater chance for precipitation and summertime storms. And then here comes September. It's hard to believe. Here comes the Labor Day weekend and everything that goes with it. Let's dive into straight politics right now for just a minute. And I'll start here. We've had a Massachusetts Democrat that just got drug out in handcuffs, another one, scamming money from the system. This time it was COVID funds. It does my little old heart good to think that the COVID fraud that we all knew was going on when they were slinging money at people, especially in 2021, that people were going to find schemes to get away with it. And one by one, we've got not only some people that faked businesses to get PPP loans. Remember all that nonsense? There were people that weren't involved in healthcare. I remember I busted a whole group that had never sold protection equipment to a hospital in their lives, but they had connections in Montgomery, and they were trying to put together a quick fake operation to be able to get the contract to supply these things, and they didn't have any access to supply these things. One, that's not treating the patients right, but there was a lot of fraud, because there was too much money and some people couldn't resist it. Well, this guy, his name is Francisco Paulino. They've been talking about him on national news this afternoon. I never heard of him. He's just some jerkwad in Maryland. But he was busted for looting And that's all you can call this, because he's in a position of power. It's one thing if you fill out a fake loan like Tish James did, or do these other things to deceive lenders and some of these other corrupt officials. But this guy stole $700,000 in COVID relief money that was supposed to be for businesses and preserving our economy in that time, which it really screwed things up that we're still dealing with. But the money was dangled out there because of the fake shutdown. We didn't need the shutdown, but they did it to us. And this guy got his piece of it. And thank God, after all these years, statutes, what I'm worried about with some of these sort of, I guess this would technically be called a white collar crime, where it's just financial and sort of fiduciary stuff. Thank God that's being still caught up with. I was always worried. I remember reading a while back that some of the statutes of limitations on these things are only 5 years for certain kind of embezzlement or defrauding the government and things like that. But at least we've got, I'll say this, if Kamala Harris had won this election, this SOB would have gotten away with it. They would not have even looked at it. No one would have investigated. We never get recompense for people that were, it's twofold. Not only did this dude, according to the accusation, aggrandize himself, not only did he enrich himself with the color of his office, but it diverted needed funds to people that needed it. And that, it sort of reminds me of, we haven't really had anybody arrested over it, but do y'all remember the FEMA funds that got diverted out of North Carolina? And this is just a fact. The Biden administration, desperate to grab any dollar it could to help support these illegals and get them established. They spent significant resources through non-governmental organizations, these NGOs, to transport these people from remote places, get them across the border. At one point, they were getting caught directly at the border, so they started hiding them at airports. Do you remember these scenes? They'd put up these black tarp walls in whole sections of airports, fly them in at night. Why didn't we riot back then? Why didn't we just raise more hell about this stuff? This is why it's so hard to get them out of here now. So they brought them in the cover of darkness, hit them and slept them on the floor behind big giant tarps, and would arrest anybody that tried to go back to this zone in the airport. Then disperse them on buses out into the country. This happened in real time. We were watching it and talking about it. They'd get them into these communities, and instantly they get housing vouchers. Some of these people were qualifying for home loans that you and I and some others would never get to qualify for. They come here penniless. Allegedly, they're refugees from other countries. Most of them are third world crap holes. And they suddenly, they're in your neighborhood and they got a brand new house because your money was paying for it. And there were so many palms getting greased in the process with all that stuff going on. But it reminds me of the FEMA situation, because I think I got natural disasters on the brain today. We've already talked about storms today and an approaching hurricane in the Atlantic and what happened in Nepal. When they got hit with that flood in western North Carolina, and the Biden administration stiffed those people, just did. And you remember the one lady at FEMA down in Florida that was intentionally telling the people that work for her in the field, if somebody has a Trump sign in their yard, to not give that house any help? They were playing politics with every apparatus of the government. And so back then, they were diverting those FEMA funds, claiming they were out of money. Oh, FEMA's broke. Well, what the hell happened to the money? Congress appropriated it. They had used it on these refugees, on these fake refugees and these illegal immigrants that they were shuttling in, giving temporary status to. We were being absolutely infiltrated back then, and our government was doing our government was doing it to us. They were the ones subsidizing this stuff. Europe's dealing with it right now. It's the same exact problem. So it's the same mentality. It's the same approach of this jerk in Maryland and others that get power. Fauci, I can name a whole list of them. They need to be roundly arrested and convicted for this stuff. It was intentional. It was wanton. It was a crime against humanity. When people are suffering because their business is going out of business, because the government says they can't run their business, and there's money out there to help, and then this butthole decides he wants some of it, or some FEMA person you've never heard of has the power in our government to divert something from people who have lost everything in a flood. They're standing there to the open sky. Their home is gone, Everything they've known is gone. Some of these people were so cut off that it took helicopter flights. I remember Elon Musk airdropping Starlinks just so they could have internet to communicate with the outside world that they were alive. And the federal government just went, no, you're just a bunch of rural white people. There's no room for you. We're going to have all these immigrants of color because, that's all that matters. That was the priorities of this country. So there's a lot of corruption that goes around. Now let's switch to this story. I'm just going to shove some fresh stuff in here. I saw this today. Capitol Police arrested a 35-year-old dude who was riding around Washington, D.C. with a guillotine in the back of his truck. This dude's name is Phelan Tam Dui Lee. I don't know what kind of name that is. Could be French. By the way, the French, remember the French, the Jacobins, as some people call them? These guys were running around beheading people in the French Revolution. They were just, oh, you're in the bourgeois, you're out. Stick your head in there, chop your head off. Maybe that's why the commies and the Islamics are all buddies now. They love beheadings. They hate women, and they'll beat the hell out of a woman, and they love beheadings. So this guy's riding around in D.C. with a guillotine that the police believe was functional. Some people could claim, okay, this is a prop. He was going to do some stunt. Everybody's a revolutionary nowadays. Everybody's going to fight the power. And but he drove, listen to this crap. He built this thing, a functional guillotine that would chop your head off, and drove all the way to Washington, D.C. And now right now he's only charged with carrying a dangerous weapon as investigators dig into why he made the trip. If it's a publicity stunt, it's just one of the stupider things these people have done in a while. If it's not a publicity stunt and he intended on maybe beheading somebody right there in the middle of the Capitol, well, I'm glad they caught him. This isn't like smuggling a gun. I mean, this is a pretty damn big thing that he was riding around with. What a fool. Maybe we'll find out more, but here's my guess. We're going to memory hold this one too. There's too much else that we're distracted with. We're going to memory hold that. By the way, I got a tip for you on something that I didn't even know. I didn't even know this presentation was out there. I'm flipping around the other night, and there's just nothing to watch anymore on the streaming apps. It's just all so juvenile and dark and stupid and left-wing and social engineering-y. I'm just so cynical about it. But I saw this title that I had to stop and look at. It was called Death by Lightning. It had some actors in it that I've liked and other things. So we started watching. It was about the assassination of President James Garfield. One of the more, I thought I knew that story and I knew the surface of it because it has been overshadowed by the assassination of Lincoln and, of course, the Kennedy assassinations being more spectacular. Garfield was shot right after he got elected. Of course, I'm not trying to spoil the movie because it's history. But he really died of an infection from an incompetent doctor that didn't know what to do with the bullet wound. Netflix is so propaganda oriented. I thought, am I really going to watch this? So we started watching it, and I'm telling you, it was pretty good. They told it in a parallel story between the assassin. Basically, he couldn't get a job with the administration, so he shot Garfield. What's more amazing about the storytelling is how you could just walk right up to the White. In those days, in the 1880s, it was 1880 is when all this went down. You could just walk right up to the White House, walk in the door, and get in line and say, I want to talk to the president. There was no complex around it, none of that stuff. And of course, that was one of the many presidential assassinations or assassination attempts. And I didn't know much about the character of Garfield. I hope it's a true to life presentation. They used a lot of modern kind of colloquial English that they might not have spoken that way back then, but it was pretty well done. Little tip. It's only 4 parts. Good little series. It's on Netflix if you're still paying that channel a subscription. Let's go to Stephanie, who's on a cell phone. She's got a traffic update. We always bump those to the top. Stephanie, what's up?
I just got on 65 South at the Hampsville exit 291, and 65 North is a parking lot for as far as you can see. Try
What's
to
happening?
avoid that area. I'm not sure. It looks like an accident.
Okay. Is the weather
really
bad
see.
there yet? It looks like storms are approaching up in that area.
I actually just got off 65, headed towards Walker County. There's no rain yet.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that heads up, and I know your neighbors do too. I'm looking at that. I had to scroll up and go kind of north on the map. Yeah, right before Colony and right after Blunt Springs, that little Smoke Rise exit, That's where that is. And I can't, looks like maybe just an accident on the map. Sometimes we can't quite tell. But good heads up, though, Stephanie.
All right. Thanks. Love your show.
Love you long time. Why did I say that? I don't know. We just say that sometimes. Thank you, Stephanie. I don't even know Stephanie. Lonnie's Furniture Company. Let's talk about that neck of the woods. Just down from there and up from where I am is Kimberly, Alabama, in a mega store. It's a superstore. It was fun being over there Friday to do the show, get to see people again. Y'all, they got a store full and ready to go. They're turning it over. Several of our listeners that just came by they did what I told you. They came by to say hey, and then they couldn't quit looking, bought some stuff. A lot of y'all showed up on Saturday. Take advantage of this big Labor Day sale. Now, look, every mattress store in the world has a mattress sale on Labor Day, don't they? And you get a lot of that during Labor Day. You probably your mailbox is full of stuff. You're not going to get a better deal than at Lonnie's. If you're angling for a Labor Day mattress, they've got it. They're in like everybody else. They're not going to be beat on mattresses. But look around because this store is just full of things, almost an acre in size. All I know is when I set up for the show on Friday, I was kind of joking about it. I set up in the very back corner, and the bathroom was in the opposite corner. And the store's so big, I almost couldn't make it from the back corner to the opposite corner and back during a normal break, like when AJ and I normally dip down the hall during the course of a 4-hour show. That's how big this place is. Stressless. I visited with some neighbors the other night. They had some stressless furniture. This is a quick story. As soon as I walked in, I went, "Are those stressless chairs?" And you know what they said? They said, "Yeah, we've had those for 20 years." They looked new. I thought, well, maybe they just bought these things. That's a brand, a high-end European style brand that's been around forever. Very ergonomic. People love these chairs. Lonnie's has them. Lazy Boys, Bassett's, outdoor stuff. Some people are outside during the summer. I'm more of a fall guy. I do work during the summer, but if I want to chill and sit around and enjoy the beautiful nature that God has made, it's usually in the fall. Look at the outdoor furniture too. Y'all, the Labor Day sale is going on. The theme of it is buy more, save more. And it's pretty simple. The more you spend, they've got kind of a scale of percentages based on how much you're spending, the more you save. So take advantage of it. Let them help you finance if that's what you need. Get a deal and let them bring it to you. Or you can bring a trailer and take it home yourself. It's the Labor Day sale at Lonnie's Furniture Company off exit 280, Lonnie'sFurnitureCompany.com. We'll be back here in just a minute, Leland Live. Man, here we go with this again. Let me get to that in a minute. Let me tell you about Work Trucks. TRUX, WorkTrucksLLC.com. They're downtown Birmingham. If you got a business or a church or a nonprofit, any just reason you need a basic, get it done, commercial based truck. Some of these are nice enough you could just drive as your personal vehicle because they've gotten them off lease. They've been used a little bit from the lease programs. That means they're going to be low miles. They don't even trust that, even though they go and vet the best of these when they go out into the marketplace and bring them to Birmingham. They got a program. It's a 125-point checklist. Takes a long time to go through it, but they check these things to make sure these trucks are as new as they can make them. Then they put them on the lot. So everything you see has been checked out for you, and it's ready to go. They can finance you. They can back them up with extended warnings. It's Work Trucks, TRUX, WorkTrucksLLC.com. They're downtown 3rd Avenue South. Let them help. Let them keep your fleet moving instead of you wasting time trying to do all this stuff. Keep that money coming in the door. You focus on revenue. Let them handle your fleet needs. It's Work Trucks. Bubba and the team, just great folks. Good people you want to work with. TRUX, WorkTrucksLLC.com. I'm noticing here the mayor of Gary, Indiana, his name is Eddie Melton. He's screaming racism because the power's off in his city. I think it's a 76 black populated city. So naturally, he's incompetent, and they've got problems in Gary, and it's not because of any of that. It's got to be race, right? Well, here's what really happened. The whole area all the way into Illinois was hit with these massive thunderstorms. There's been power outages all over the region. One of the reasons Gary, Indiana is being last to be gotten to is because the power crews went into that city like an army to fix them and get them back online, and they got shot at. Some thugs shot at the power crews a couple of times, and the power company said, we can't expose our people to this savagery. There are too many hurting people in the region. We got to go help other folks. So they got to the back of the line with that. That's not directly the mayor's fault, but that's the reason they don't have their power on yet. And this dude's just bitching to bitch. It's probably how he got elected. That's how we do things in the country now. It's not competence anymore. It's your ability to bitch. Back in a minute. All right, y'all. EcoView Windows and Doors bringing you the show tonight, too. Get that house buttoned up, especially ahead of the cold weather. Sometimes when the cold weather is really cold outside, I give you the easiest test in the world to know whether your windows are letting you down. That's just go stand next to them when it's super cold outside. You can feel that draft. You can feel the radiation of the cold coming through the windows. What that is a heat exchange. It's harder to detect in the summer because you're on the air conditioned side of the equation in that season. But if you're feeling cold coming in, that's heat going out, and you're losing money, and your air conditioner's working itself to death, or your heater, and you're paying more on your power bills for it. And you're going to wear your HVAC system out. Get those windows fixed. There are even tax incentives that could come into play depending on your situation and the upgrade that you do to get real quality double pane, even triple pane windows from EcoView. They're quick about their work, totally professional, best installers in the business. And the best part is Becky Jackson, based on industry averages of how much money people waste on these bad windows. She says they can save you 35% over the first 12 months on your heating and cooling bill. Talk to her about that. Let them explain how they back that up, and let them come give you a free quote. This could really change everything. Not to mention another factor, of course, if your windows are painted shut or difficult to open and close, you can actually got functional windows. We can let some fresh air in when the weather is nice outside. And then, of course, keep you warm in the winter and cool in the summer. It's ecoviewwindows.com. ecoviewwindows.com. Let them come check you out. All right, I'm going to dive into this Lindsay Clancy thing. I don't want to. This is one of the, every now and then we get a dumb story where people become unreasonable in this country. And we've seen cases like, let's say the OJ case. The OJ case was as straightforward as it gets. There was mountains of evidence against this guy, but the case turned on racial lines. It was a miscarriage of justice. This dude killed 2 people and got away with it. And it exposed a lot of things in the country that we didn't even know about our fellow man and our neighbors about how they saw the world, because people dug in emotionally over that case. I'll never forget watching it every day, hours on end. And then I'd go in and have to report on other crime cases. And I was out there in the aftermath of it, covering the news stories. I covered Rodney King and the reaction to that. So sometimes you'll have a pivotal case that involves, and in the case of OJ, he was a celebrity. This woman was no celebrity. This Lindsay Clancy, she was just some psycho that didn't like her life. And so now she has risen to, this thing has it's been dragging on for, I think, 21 days or something like that. So it's had time to percolate. And then you compound that by the stupidity and the bad information that's on the internet about this case, and people can convince themselves of anything on either side. We're watching it again. And what this is doing, where OJ exposed some ugliness over race in this country, this case is exposing some crazy that a lot of people just didn't even know was boiling out there. And it's a weird time. Okay, let me just break down some thoughts on it as they head toward what eventually will be closing arguments and a jury verdict. Now, from the outset, understand what I'm about to say is just my own thoughts on society more than the case, because we're not in the courtroom. I'm just now getting up to speed on the evidence. And I felt a little duped, too. I first heard this whole story about the system letting her down and a cry for help. Turned out that is all 100% bogus. We had a guy call the show the other day, said his wife was invested. They thought the dad did it. These women have convinced themselves the guy did it. What do they base that on? Vibes. Their gut instinct. In some cases, you've got podcasters out there getting clicks, claiming that how they can figure out this case based on astrology. Thank God we got a real legal system that just weighs the evidence. So, because the internet can convict anybody of anything because it makes up its own evidence, which is exactly what we're seeing here. It's very similar to this Candace Owens bull squeeze that she's been spewing since Charlie Kirk's murder for over a year to get clicks. These people will say the most vile things just to keep the audience going, and people buy into it, get reinforced about it, and start to be sympathetic. It's a stupid thing. Fellows, just listen to me. If you're out there in the dating world right now and you're trying to choose the one, I said this the other day, sadly, because it's 2026, you got to ask 2 questions up front. One, Ask the young lady over dinner. I mean, you can do it calmly in a nice public setting. Find out if she has a penis, because that could be the case. Just check on that. And then the second thing is, how do you feel about killing our own kids one day? Because you might be surprised, and then you might get an opportunity to run before you get stuck with that kind of crazy. Listen, what this is doing, in my opinion, knowing people that have suffered from postpartum and complete stress and all the crazy stuff that pressures, particularly on women and moms, it's doing a disservice. This is just my calculation after doing a lot of reading about it last night. It's doing a disservice to those conditions, because this woman in a calculated way murdered these kids and is now hiding behind that to generate public sympathy, and I think to skew the jury and maybe to affect the women on the jury, because it's a sensitive issue with women, and men do not understand it. That's a fact. We don't get it. We try to help. If you're in that situation as a husband in a marriage, we're never going to understand, but we all try to help. And it's tough, but it's not the same as a calculated, premeditated murder of children. I have seen so many mother instincts over my life where a mom will be the last person on this planet that still loves you even after you do something stupid. I don't know how many times I've interviewed the families of a murderer, and it's mama that'll come outside and say, my baby didn't do anything. Moms are going to love you unconditionally. And there's a fierce instinct. I saw it with my own mom, that she would put her happiness, the things in life, and her life itself in between danger and us, or the world and us. Men have that same instinct. It's a different, more protective instinct in a different way. But there's a maternal instinct that's powerful. And I'm watching women come forward. I'm not even listening to the men on it, right? I'm watching all these women that are finally calling out the complete nonsense that's been fabricated online. This isn't astrology. The defense is not even making the case that the father of these children even remotely had anything to do with this. That flies in the face of their own defense, where they're trying to get her off on temporary insanity. And the question is not, did she have a rough life? Was she on meds? Did she ask for help for depression? All that's true. That doesn't mean you can kill your kids. You can't kill your kids because they put you on Zoloft. And any woman that concludes that, this is murder. This isn't she had a bad time or life sucked. Life sucks for everybody in those situations sometimes. This woman plotted and planned. The more I find out about the evidence and the bad evidence that's out there in the public that some of y'all read and think you believe because you read it, there's something very powerful about the written word. And this is the dangerous place we're in, because we have this sometimes innate instinct that if it's written or somebody publishes it or posts it, well, then it has to have some validity to it. And then because of the algorithms, if you click on one post that takes a position like that, there are going to be 5 more from other sources that will validate it by reposting those things. Because honestly, the social media companies are just trying to keep you online, keep your eyes on the screen as long as possible. And they get you hooked, and you're hooked. And then you see another one and another and another one. It becomes validating. And it's not even remotely connected to reality in this case. There is so much fabricated evidence online right now that it's not in the courtroom. It's not part of the case. It is made up by the internet. So back to my point about women who really do suffer from these things. I think that those are the folks that are the most vulnerable to be susceptible to sympathy for this woman. But I think that's so misguided, because if we're really going to treat that and help people in those situations, you can't lump her in with a cold-blooded murderer the way this woman murdered those kids. The deflection of the husband. She stopped and took a phone call in the middle of it, told her husband everything's cool, gave him another instruction to keep him away from the house so she could complete the job. It took longer than she thought. That is sick. These babies are dead. The justice system isn't just for her. Justice system's for those kids as well. They lost their very life from the person they trusted the most from this insane situation. Also, what was compelling to me, this guy was a boring dude. One of the professional witnesses in the case was just so dry and slow talking. I can't imagine the jury wanted to follow him. But this guy, he got on and he talked about how she claimed to have heard voices which she never told anybody before. She never gave any red flags of any of this stuff before. Generally, people that really have this kind of psychosis exhibit a lot of signs ahead of time, especially when they've been exposed to the system, to the treatment in the hospitals. I'm not saying they get it right. I'm saying there are signs that are pretty wild and obvious. Even the father, I mean, this guy wouldn't have left the house if she had been exhibiting murder. So she deflected and she pulled it off and tried to kill herself. Somebody believes she was just, it's one of those murder suicides where she probably had gotten to the point where she wanted to kill herself. She wanted to take the kids with her. None of that matters as far as our opinion, because none of us are sitting in the courtroom. But what I hate more about it is what is exposed about us in society. Let me I'm going to throw a deeper ball and then we'll get some calls on it, because a lot of people will be watching this and reading this and will have deep opinions when the jury comes to a verdict. And by the way, I firmly believe they're going to acquit her, because I've seen this too many times. It's easy to get a jury hung up when they're very cloudy issues and technical issues, by the way. I've seen politicians get off because the jury was too dumb to understand the spreadsheet about how they stole the money. I've covered trials where the mom made an emotional bond with people in the jury box and got a hung jury. Had nothing to do with the facts of the case. Our system's imperfect like that. But I had a thought today when I was just thinking about how men and women are getting divided, and some women and women, because you've got a lot of mothers out there that are just, they're as upset about this as anybody, that this woman did this and is hiding behind psychosis, when psychosis is real. It's kind of like when people constantly claim racism. Racism's real, man. It's done harm. It's out there, but every damn thing is not racist. It is not your permanent built-in excuse for you sucking at stuff. And the same thing with this. Women all over who just need to get some proper help, maybe some therapy and a change of situation or a little more support, shouldn't be treated like they're potential murderers. A lot of these women that are suffering from this stuff never would harm anybody. This woman was a murderer, and she did a lot of stuff that clearly was premeditated and calculating. And like the doctor said, she heard voices, and then she didn't. After she killed the last kid, she claimed she hadn't heard the voice since. That's not how, that is never how those cases work. It doesn't just cure your psychosis. So anyway, but my bigger thought was on society itself. For years, we've talked a lot on this show about how men have been emasculated. The whole phrase toxic masculinity has come along as if traditional strong things about men, I'm not talking about men that are pigs and boars and all that stuff, but strong masculine things. You even got candidates for office right now insulting football and anything that's traditional in this country about manhood. And the country's under we're in a bad place because of that. Men are being feminized and ignored and marginalized and lampooned. I never, because it's my bias, I'm a man and I'm defensive about it. I never thought about what they're doing to our women right now. What has been going on for years, particularly online with that whole toxic brew that I just explained to you, it has done something to a portion of women, it's not all women, that is sick, that is stunning, it's societal rot. We're going to lose women, what it means to be a woman. Hell, they've got us arguing over that with stupid basketball. And it's coming, a lot of it is coming from leftism. A lot of it's just coming from the addiction and the psychosis of the internet. Women, you need, my advice, be on guard against that stuff. Don't get sucked into it. They're messing with your mind. They're causing you to believe things that aren't true, validating your worst thoughts and desires and normalizing it and mainstreaming. That's going to affect, imagine the kids growing up with a psychotic mom and a feminized father. What the hell are we doing? It's a societal trend that I'm watching from a distance, sort of an amateur sociologist. And I'm going, I feel foolish because I've been ignoring what's happening to a certain group of people because I'm over here looking at what's happening to another group of people. And it's on a simultaneous track. In this case, for some reason, has brought the nuts out all over the place. It has shown how unreasonable and illogical some people can be when they're manipulated like this over their own emotions, maybe their own experiences. If you've been through this stuff and you're hurting and you hurt in the past, it is foolish to sympathize and relate your condition with a premeditated murderer. It's a whole nother category. It's not the same. It's not the same. This is dangerously stupid right now. All right, I'll get y'all's thoughts on it on the other side after the break. Axiom Tax Resolution Group show tonight, 205tax.com, 205tax.com. That's, man, Perry Cronin for years is helping people get sleep at night. Can you imagine when the IRS is threatening to take everything you got, you don't know where you're going to get the money or how you're going to pay it back, and you have no idea because they're not going to tell you that you could reduce what they think you owe by 80%, and they're not allowed to say certain things or do certain things. And their programs even help you do a payback monthly payment installment thing that they're not going to tell you about that either. Perry knows these things. He's your advocate. He'll get between you and the threat, work it out with the IRS. They're actually workable if they know they're dealing with a professional like Perry. He knows who to contact, how to talk to him, what's reasonable to offer, what all the rules are, and he can get you some peace in your life. Get this bill past you with your own government and get you on to the next tax deadline. He's local too, and that's one of my favorite things is we've got one of the best experts in the country right here in Birmingham. 205tax.com is his website, 205tax.com. The phone number is 872-1100, Axiom Tax Resolution Group. It's 3:56. Leland Live Talk 99.5. Let's get Dan on here. Got a little short segment before the top of the hour. Dan, what's up with you this afternoon?
Hey, not much, Leland. I want to talk about the Clancy case and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you're hitting on so many good points. Like, seriously, like, for all the men in the audience that are listening, hey, guys, we don't understand what the women go through. We really don't. And we can't put them in their shoes. Men are from Mars and women are for Venus. Like, we can't understand them. And that's part of the facts. But, hey, man, a clear-cut case, I feel like, is either she's crazy or she's a murderer. One of the two, right?
Well, she could be both.
No, it's one of the two. You can't just consciously in goodwill go kill your children.
Well, I see what you mean. Yeah, in terms of the law, it's a very narrow question for the jury, and the internet gets this wrong. Did she know in that moment right from wrong? Premeditation and exhibiting signs that you're covering up what you're doing, or planning or threatening what you're doing, or scheming for what you're doing, negates the idea that it's because of any kind of psychosis.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And my wife is she's a woman. I don't understand her, but she's a clinical health professional. And to those two things, like postpartum, is a real thing that people deal with. But also, murder is a clear-cut case as well. I mean, there's 3 children, the most heinous crime that we've experienced in my lifetime. Spencer Pratt did an exorbitant job. I mean, he did a great job explaining the whole situation.
Yeah.
I listened to that video, and, dude, seriously, Leland, she's either crazy or a murderer. And either way, if she's a murderer, she needs to pay the time. And if she murdered 3 children, she needs to die for the justice system.
Well, she's not facing the death penalty right now. That's just, I think at most she goes to some mental health facility for the rest of her life.
It's so heinous, Leland, is it not?
No, the death of 3 children absolutely is heinous, and the way strangulation is, and again, it's not like hanging. I watched one of the scenes last night. They hanged the guy that killed Garfield, and you drop and your neck snaps and your lights go out.
Snaps your neck, Leland.
Yeah. And a strangulation, though, is slow and punishing and one of the worst ways to die. And these innocent children were put face down and strangled one by one, with the oldest figuring out what was going on and running for his life. And his own mother put him down on the floor and strangled him to death.
So she's a murderer or she's crazy? I think she's a murderer. My wife has, postpartum, the women, I love them. Don't get me wrong. But, this is a clear-cut case of acid test. Is it acidic or is it, neutral? But, like, this is a clear-cut case in social media to determine the crazies, Leland. This is it.
All right, Dan, I think we've seen a lot of crazy as, heinous is murdering your children. Crazy is standing around in matching pink outfits cheering for this woman. That's straight cray. And there's no clinical diagnosis, I guess, for that yet. We'll see. We'll see what the jury does. I bet we may get a verdict by the end of the week. We'll see what happens. Back in a minute. Top of the hour, 1819 News, Leland Live. Y'all hang on.